Hi, if you're new to my page, I am diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, severe complex PTSD, and ADHD. I'm going to skip the details as to why I was misdiagnosed with NPD, but it's just that my symptoms were seen as something that they weren't, as well as me being in active abuse and being heavily manipulated by my childhood traffickers. One of the people who abused me growing up actually went as far as manipulating the therapist into gaslighting me. They actually convinced me that I was never abused when I first started realizing that I was, but anyway, my traffickers used this misdiagnosis to gaslight me and further the brainwashing that they had done to me. My NPD diagnosis also did not go the same way as my other diagnoses did. With NPD, it kind of was just like I told a professional, hey, I've been diagnosed with this in the past, and they would immediately write it down. There was no other assessment. With DID, there was multiple assessments. All of my emotions, all of my feelings, anytime that I was starting to realize that my abusers were abusive, those were the times that this was thrown back at me and used to diminish my experience, to gaslight me, to make me think that everything was my fault. My traffickers are the type of people that will take any weakness that you have, spin it in their favor, and use it against you. And yeah, I'm not happy with how much I was manipulated. That's actually really hard for me to admit to. So basically, I was misdiagnosed and heavily gaslit to the point where you get told that you're something enough, you're gonna start acting like it. And that's pretty much what happened to me. That diagnosis was used to discredit everything I said, and pretty much everything that I did, every PTSD symptom that I had, everything was attributed to this misdiagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. They wanted me to have NPD. It was probably like the greatest day of their life when I was diagnosed with that, because they knew that they could use it against me. And people act differently when they're being abused. People can pick up traits of personality disorders without actually having the personality disorder when they're in active abuse. A personality disorder is pervasive and affects all areas of your life and doesn't just go away like that. I had narcissistic traits, but not NPD. I also, at the time, my life is such a joke, but at the time I also was talking to another guy who was abusing and grooming me and actually had plans to traffic me. So there was that element added into it as well. I was talking to this guy while I was in treatment when I got diagnosed and after I got diagnosed, and he did a shitload of damage to me. So I had 3 very abusive people trying to convince me that I had this disorder so that they could use it against me. I spent years of my life thinking that I had this personality disorder that I didn't actually have. I internalized so much self-hatred because of that, and I felt like every action of mine was being interpreted as narcissistic. Now that I have the correct diagnoses, I've actually been able to make more progress. I've made more progress in the past year than I had since I was diagnosed. I will forever be known as the narcissist, even though I don't actually have NPD, and that part kind of sucks and frustrates me. I've just been reflecting on this a lot lately and realizing and looking back on how traumatizing all that actually really was for me. I know that I should not have trusted my abusers with telling them my diagnosis, but at the time I did not realize that I was brainwashed by them. So yeah, and I think that having Stockholm syndrome just made it a hell of a lot worse. Yeah, anyway, this is something that I definitely feel like I'm gonna have to work through with a therapist. I just wanted to share my story, honestly, to get that off my chest and to just spread information about how misdiagnosis does happen and how it can be harmful. Sometimes professionals are wrong. They're human, they're not perfect. Sometimes they're wrong, and sometimes that can have really bad consequences.